Welcome to the Fabulous at 50 podcast, where we are changing the aging narrative. I'm your host, Joanne Newduck, and I'm thrilled to bring you stories that matter and celebrate your place in the world. As an advocate for lifelong learning, health, and women's empowerment, I believe it's never too late to live the life you've always imagined. Through lively and informative interviews with inspiring guests, we'll explore a wide range of topics relevant to our global sisterhood of vibrant, inquiring women just like you. Join me for today's episode, and let's start changing the aging narrative together. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Fabulous at 50, and of course, beyond. Today, we're going to talk about the body, mind, and spirit connection. And what does that really mean when somebody says that? This is a topic that we talked about at our Radiate Your Best Life Women's Health and Wellness Symposium that was presented and hosted by myself and Dr. Andrea recently at the end of April. And if you haven't yet watched that episode, you can scroll back. I think it's episode 68. So you can check that out where we talk a bit about the behind the scenes and what it meant to us to put on this event. So I realized that I don't think I've done an episode, at least from what I can see. If you find one that I missed, please let me know. And that has to do with body, mind, and spirit. And what does that really mean? So I'm going to take a little bit of the material that I presented at the event and share it here. Because of course, if you didn't live in the Calgary area, you're not likely to have come to our event. And I want you to have that material as well. So when we talk about the body, mind, and spirit connection, we are talking about how they're connected. It sounds kind of Captain Obvious, but when I ask people, what does it mean to you? I get a wide range of answers, and there's no wrong answer. It's what does it mean to you? What it means to me is that no matter what I do or what area, like if I do something that's impacting my body, it is going to naturally have an impact on my mind and on my spirit. And for the purpose of this conversation, spirit is, think of your energies, think of your daily, like, do you have high energy today? Do you have low energy? It's that energy body. It's like I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. Our bodies do have energy, like, our brain, our synaptic firings are going, our heart has electrical conductivity. Anyone that has studied meridians with acupuncture, all of this it's a very faint, subtle energies that are part of our body and literally the world around us. If we didn't have it, we'd be a stone or we'd be dead. If we're alive, there is, if you go down to cell biology, there is a constant exchange and energy exchange and little pumps happening and bringing things into the cell and, cell respiration and taking it out again. I'm doing this on a very high level because I don't want to get into all the scientific stuff around that. But I just want us to understand when I talk about energies, that's what I'm talking about for the purposes of this. So with our body, what we do with our body is going to impact our mind and our energy. So things that we talked about at the event is, let's first look at when things are going wrong with our body. What do we have? Again, this is pretty obvious. We feel drained. We have illness. We have disease. We have, we're not feeling strong. We might have digestive issues. We might have things going on with our lungs. So we have something that is draining us and indicating that our physical body is drained. So that's on the downside. If we want to flip over onto the positive side of our bodies, we're feeling strong. We have that energy. We're standing up straight. We can take deep breaths. We can breathe without coughing. We're free, either free of illness and disease and conditions, or we have them managed well. And that kind of, that would indicate that we are on the positive side. with our physical body. But how do we keep it that way, right? We keep it that way by how we breathe. And so if we're all hunched over and we're breathing through our mouth, just breathing through our mouth, we actually are not inflating our lungs fully, and we're not getting that full oxygen that is so needed for all of our cells throughout our body. And when we breathe through our mouth, we are actually triggering what we call the sympathetic nervous system. We're triggering the fight or flight system, because that's typically when we breathe through our mouth, it's because we're running from the saber-toothed tiger, if we want to say, and we're meant to have that big burst of energy in those moments. But if we're constantly breathing through our mouth, then we're constantly triggering our stress response, which is not good. So let's start just with breathing. So if we breathe through our mouth, in and out each day, that's going to support our body. We can go so far as, I know people that tape their mouth closed at night to train them that at night to breathe through their nose. So we can retrain our automatic system of breathing to breathe through our nose. And it's kind of fun that breathing is something you can do consciously. I can take a deep breath, or it's automatic. It's part of the autonomic nervous system. So that's the first one. The second one is water. How much water are we consuming? Because most of us do not get enough water through the day. Unless you have a kidney issue and you've been told by a doctor to restrict your fluids, we should be getting lots of water through our system to flush. That's what we need if we're wanting to lose weight. We want to keep everything hydrated. So think of a babbling brook versus stagnant water. We want that babbling brook. We want the life-giving water. So the easiest way is take your weight in pounds, divide by 2, and that's how many ounces per day we'd like you to get in. So then, of course, you can divide again and get how many cups per day. So we often hear have 8 cups a day. Well, 8 cups a day isn't really accurate, because if you're somebody that's 250 pounds or somebody that's 110 pounds soaking wet type of thing, you don't need the same amount of water. So you want it to be accurate for you. And then there's food. What we eat is our fuel. If we pour sugar water into our cars, it's not going to flow very well, right? It's not going to run well. And that happens if we're not putting the right kind of fuel into our body, it's not going to run well. So what we eat makes a massive difference on how well do we have brain fog? Are we doing well? How does our energy feel? We've all had that big meal, and then an hour or so later, we want to fall asleep. Food should energize us. So if you're getting really sleepy after eating, then something you're eating is really not energizing you. So we want to do things that energize us. Now, the other stuff we want to do is movement. So when we're moving, our minds feel more clear, and definitely we increase our energy. So getting daily movement. I'm not saying you have to go work out and sweat buckets every single day, because that honestly is for our younger bodies. Can we still do it as we get older? Absolutely. But we need to give ourselves more recovery time. Whether we like it or not, we want to be kind to our bodies in the way our bodies need supporting. We can be just as strong as we were when we were younger. By all means, we can. We just need to get there in a different way. So this is the type of stuff that we want to do to support our bodies. And I'm going to circle back to the food to just share that what we talked about at the Radiate Your Best Life Women's Health and Wellness event on April 27th in Calgary. We also presented what's called the Metabolic Balance Eating Plan, which is the plan that both Dr. Andrea and I are trained in to lead our clients through. And it is designed to be anti-inflammatory, insulin balancing, sugar balancing, or insulin stabilizing, I guess, sugar balancing. And it can be a weight reduction or simply a metabolism balancer and maintaining while you're feeling much better. It can also be used for those that are underweight who want to gain weight in a healthy, safe way. So if you are overweight or you're wondering, how do I balance out my metabolism? Because when your hormones are out of whack, everything's out of whack. When insulin is high, there's other things that go high that you don't want high, and hormones that go low that you want to be raised. It suppresses your melatonin. It suppresses the hormones that are responsible for healing your cells. Everything just goes out of whack. And we can circle about that, and I can by all means do another podcast where I talk more about that. And I mean, we could do a whole podcast on insulin resistance and what goes on. But right now, I just want you to understand that what is going on with your body is also impacting your energy levels and your mind. Okay. So now let's step into mind. It's needless to say, what we think with our mind impacts our body and our energy. And this is something that if you're getting it and you're already on board with understanding this, your life has already transformed. But for so many people, for myself included, a number of years ago, when somebody really said to me, you can change what you think. You can change how you feel about things. That was like, excuse me? I can't help how I feel about this. That's just the way my mind thinks. That is the response. Is that the kind of response that you're having as I'm speaking about this? Because I am happy to announce that our brains are magical. They are. We have neuroplasticity and ability to change how our brains think. So the way I think about this is, think of your computer. Your computer is like your brain. It's the physical brain that is there. And then what you have is all the physiological processes. So that is, and your conscious and subconscious can relate to the operations of the computer. So let's call your subconscious your operating system. And then your conscious brain, what you're really thinking about, is the programs that you're currently running. So think back to your really old computers and the type of operating systems, like think back to like DOS, if we're dating ourselves here. You can't run the current programs that are out there in the world right now on an old operating system. You have to update your operating system. And so that's the same for us, is when we are very young, especially, and as we go through our life, because of our life circumstances, we create, let's say, opinions of the world. People call them beliefs, and they talk about limiting beliefs when those opinions of the world, your view of the world, limits how you can currently live. So therefore, it's something you believe, and it's a limiting belief. Okay, we're not necessarily talking about religious beliefs. That would fall in there, but that's not specifically. It's about any beliefs. And so when we have beliefs, opinions of the world, outlook on the world that drains us, that can make us despondent on the drain side, we can feel despair. We might have anxieties and worries and depression. You might just simply be like, what's the point? There may be apathy. All of that's on the draining side. That's not uplifting and happy and joyful, right? If we go over to, if our mind is supportive of our total being, then on that uplifting side, we have joy, we have a happiness, we have calmness in our life. We can think clearly. We have creativity, like it's a creative mind. So we want to bring it up on the upside. So what are things that we can do with that? Well, for one, we can learn, how do we have positive thinking? It is a process. It's not just a matter of, I'm going to think positive. Isn't it annoying? Don't you find it annoying when somebody just comes up and goes, think positive? And it's like, okay, how? Well, there is a how. I personally use a system called belief reparenting. And it really is, I'm trained in essence as a positive self-talk coach. And so we can, on a conscious level, make a choice. Say, I can choose to be, on the downside, or I can choose to be on the upside, and I consciously choose the upside. And we run through some conversation and some statements that actually drives that information down into the subconscious so that you are naturally on the positive side. And when we're on the buoyant side, think about when you're happy, you're standing up tall and you're straight and you feel clear-minded. That has an impact on your body. We can do so much more. This goes much deeper. I'm just doing this a little on the reminder side of things here. And then we get into our energetics and our energy side of things. And when we get into that, we can think of when we have low energy, we're feeling tired, we can feel lethargic, we can feel disconnected from other people, we feel disconnected from that which is greater than us. Whatever your religious belief is, whether you refer to it as the universe or as God, we have a disconnection there. And our whole bodies, there's a tiredness and a low, people talk about it being like a low vibration. Yeah, there's like a feeling. What we want is to be on the energized. We want to be calm and relaxed and energized. We want to be on that uplifted side of life. And so we feel like we have the energy, we have a clear mind, and we can partake in the activities that we want. So there's some very specific things that we can do to address our energetic side. So we can help ourselves through things like energy work, energy medicine. Over this past year, I qualified as an Eden energy practitioner. Working with Reiki can make a difference. Working with acupuncture, doing things like Tai Chi and Qigong, anything that intentionally works within the energy systems. Often they work with both. If you're doing something like yoga, your yoga poses can have an impact on your chakra systems. It has an impact on your energy systems. It also makes your muscles stronger and more relaxed and limber, and it calms the mind. So that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about that body, mind, spirit connection. Really, anything we do in one of those has an impact on all of them. And that's very profound, because sometimes we have limitations in one. So let's go a little heavier on one of the others. But the ideal is that we have a strategy within our health and wellness practices that we don't ignore any one of them. We have things that we do that support our beingness through our body, like our eating and our movement, our supplements. We do things that support our mind we can do on a mental level. So our mental gymnastics you could do crossword puzzles. There's lots of different apps that can really train your brain. You want to do that on an intellectual level, but we also want to deal with our mind on an emotional level and make sure we have that heart and mind connection and really tapping into our emotions. Because if we squash our emotions down, so that's going to have an impact on our body. So that's a connection, right? So we're doing our mind and our emotions can have an impact in a positive or a negative way into our physical body, and again into our energy. So I used an analogy when I was talking from stage, and I asked everybody, so I'll ask you, have you ever baked? Have you ever baked like a muffin? Of course, everyone giggled and laughed because pretty much everybody in there had done something like that. I like to think of the body-mind connection like baking, and we'll use a muffin for right now. There's three main components in baking. There's different ingredients, but there's three main components. So we have our dried ingredients like the flour, ground flaxseed, things like that. We have our wet, which could be the oil and the egg. And Then we go to what is the flavoring, and that is the spices you put in. Maybe you add some cinnamon, or you're making apple. I like to make banana and chocolate chip, but it's what gives it that flair. And so if we relate our body, mind, and spirit, I think of the flour as our bodies. That is what is the actual hard substance. And that would be the flour, and that would be our body. And then the mind is the liquid. Sorry, not the, oops, got it backwards. The spirit connection, like our spirit, our soul, that life force energy is the liquid, and it blends together to hold it together, to give us our actual alive beingness. And then we add in the flavoring, and that's our mind. That is the spice that makes us uniquely us. Because if you just took the flour and the liquids, it would be all plain muffins. But if we add in the spice, that makes each one unique. You could have a cinnamon apple, like I mentioned, or chocolate chip banana, or maybe you're doing bran raisin, or you could do some sunshine one that I think I had one time that had cranberries and pineapple and different types of nuts and seeds. And it was so delicious. But our minds are just absolutely incredible. But once you bake it all together, it's connected. And you're not really separating them. Like if you change one, it's going to change the whole beingness. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about body, mind, and spirit. And I'm looking at my time's almost up today. So I think I'll end off here by just sharing that if you happen to live in the Calgary area, I am actually putting on throughout the year little 4-week sessions where we learn more about our energies and our energy systems. At the end of our Radiate Your Best Life, we gave out a feedback form, and we asked for what were the roses and thorns of your day? What did you like about the day? Was there anything a little prickly? And then at the bottom, we put a whole list of subjects. What would you like to know about? What would you like to learn about? And almost everybody circled, they want to learn more about energy medicine and hear about chakras and tell me about Reiki and, tell me about this stuff because it's something that I haven't focused on throughout my life and I want to learn more. So throughout the year, at different times, I will be doing one-off classes and short, like 4-week classes in a row where we learn about these things and we get to experience it. And how do we balance that in our life? So overall, it has an impact on our body and our mind. So right now I'm starting off mostly right now, I'm doing these in person live and hosting them at my house. But I do plan, especially if there's a demand, we're going to be doing it online as well. So stay tuned for that, especially if you live outside of my specific time zone or my city, then by all means, send me a message. Go ahead and send a message. If you go to the website, www.fabulous@50.com. And that at is the word at. So the letters A and then T, fabulous@50.com. And there's a little widget there where you can send a text message that goes directly to me. It goes into a special app. And so I promise that every day or so, I will be looking at that and I will respond to you. So you can only do that if you're on a cell phone. Some people have talked to me on landlines. It doesn't work so well. I can't reply by text doing that. If you have only a landline, then you'll have to send me an email. And that's info@fabulous@50.com. But let me know what you want to hear on this podcast or what types of events you'd be interested in. So that is today's episode. I just wanted to touch base. I've had such great conversations with people about body, mind, and spirit connection. I get asked to do this presentation. It's in a slightly different form and definitely more interactive. And then I go into teaching the daily energy routine. Plus, I do some really cool exercises with mindset when I present in person. So I hope you catch one of my workshops one day. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. But before you leave, I'm curious. What pearl of wisdom are you taking away from today's episode? I do hope it held some inspiration or information for you to live your best life. If you are not yet part of our sisterhood, I invite you to join our community by visiting our website, fabulousat50.com, and you'll receive a free copy of our ebook, Make Mine Fabulous, 21 Ways to Energize Your Life. It is packed with loads of tips and tricks. Plus, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review to let us know what you think. Remember, keep choosing fabulous. It's never too late to live the life you deserve. Catch you on the next episode.